Mm-hmm.
Isabel is here, and I can't see who the body name.
Okay.
Good. You ready, Trish? You ready?
Yeah.
Good. Welcome all to the February meeting of the Parks and Waterfront Committee. I'm Barry Schneider, co-chair, with Tricia Shimamura, co-chair. Before we get started, a couple of ground rules. In the interest of expediting the meeting, we'd like to be sure that everyone keeps their comments to the subject and brief so we can move this along. I'd like to be able to end this before 7:30, please. Also, there's been a change in the agenda. We will not be joined by the Friends of the East River Esplanade due to scheduling conflict. We'll invite them to join us back in our March, come back in our March meeting. I see on the list of attendees, we have the State Assemblywoman, Rebecca Sear. Excuse me, Rebecca, do you want to say a word or two?
Corey seems to be her chief
Oh.
of staff. It seems to be here.
Okay,
Can you unmute Corey?
The name came up as Rebecca. As long as the elected official is not here, we will, we'll move on. We'll move the agenda.
Folks, I just wanted to say thank you for being. Normally, we would love to go as long as possible, but this evening we have Friends of the East River Esplanade is actually having their event, their annual event tonight. So we'd like in the interest of supporting each other's parks and conservancy efforts, if anybody is planning on doing that, we'd like to give some time for anybody who would like to attend that one to also go to that as well. So thank you for everybody for being so understanding. We'll go right into the first one. And Corey, thank you for being here for representing Assemblymember Seawright's office. So the first presentation, actually just to give a short introduction, I met Brianna George during Mulch Fest this year at Carl Schurz Park. It was a lovely event as always, albeit different and less crowded than normally I've seen it in the past, but it had a wonderful conversation about just our planting strategies in taking into consideration the kind of inclement weather, changes in climate change, how we deal with sustainable and resilient plants in Carl Schurz Park. And we just thought it might be a nice idea to invite her to come. In talking to her, I also had a chance to speak to Patrick McCluskey, the executive director for Carl Schurz Park Conservancy, about the many different activities that have been happening in the park since the pandemic. I was just there at Catbird just a couple of weeks ago, and I saw many bird watchers over there who were kind of staring up in the trees looking for rare birds that are coming about. And I ran into a couple neighbors, and I'll encourage them to come tonight to kind of hear more from our conservancy at the park about not only our planting strategy, but also about just general activities in the park. We know now more than ever our parks and open space are incredibly vital, particularly in a community that's as dense as ours. It's really important to do what we can to support all of our conservancies, hence us rushing through the meeting tonight to see if anybody wants to do the Esplanade event as well. So just want to pass it off to Patrick and Brianna to give us some updates.
Patrick, you're muted. So
Thank
just
you. Yeah, I was like, I can't unmute myself. Now I can. Hi, thank you all for having us. I also, Brianna and I are going to address you today, but I do want to just mention I appreciate the support of several volunteers who I see on the list here, as well as Anne Masheri, who joins us, who is our director of public events in the park, as she's here as well. So hello to her and also all our volunteers who are joining us. I appreciate, Trisha and Barry and the whole committee, we've always had a great relationship with you guys, and you know, the Parks Department, who I know Wes I see is here as well and is going to speak. You know, we've all had a great partnership together, so I appreciate that so much, and we appreciate you letting us come and speak to you tonight. You know, as you said, Trisha, our park has never been so heavily used. You know, we've seen an increase in usage over the past few years in general, not just in our park, but in all parks, but certainly in our park. And then this year of COVID, you know, that open space became even more, you know, cherished and necessary for people more than ever before. We had sent around a letter at the end of the year with our annual appeal, and it included some recent testimonials. And, you know, I know we are cut for time tonight, but I'm going to be quick. But I just have a couple that I just wanted to read to you just because they really touched us. And I think it's important to hear. So 3 very quick ones. The first one was, quote, I've lived across the park for 17 years, but until now, I had not had the time to come here regularly or really explore. It's amazing. I walk now in the park every day and I could not get along without it. And the second person said, quote, we're doing our best and loving Carl Schurz Park in all its splendor. It's been our safe place, our sanctuary. And finally, the last one, which I think touches us all the most, which is just, quote, Carl Schurz Park gives me hope. And I think that's true of not only our park, but also of, you know, all community spaces and waterfront spaces and parks in our area right now. It's really important for folks during this, you know, pandemic crisis and everything to be able, and even post when not having a job or losing a loved one, having that space is really important for all of us. So we thank you and everyone who supports not only our park, but, you know, open public space in our city for that. You know, our park has faced many challenges this year. Certainly, you know, it's not just finding, you know, a place to put down your blanket because there's so many people. It's dealing with the after effects of, you know, compressed soil compaction and things like that based on how many people are in our parks and the aftermaths of that. And things just as simple as trash removal, you know, making sure what you bring in, you take out. You know, we do have trash receptacles, but trying to educate folks on that kind of to bring in, take out concept has been something we're starting to do more of this year as well. And we've also faced other issues. I mean, Hurricane Isaias came through our park and tore through our park is probably a better way to say it, in August. And it left us with the most extreme tree damage we've ever encountered, more than Hurricane Sandy. So, you know, that was a huge challenge for us and something we also had to deal with in August, and getting the park back so that people could return to, you know, read and play and exercise was something we had to focus on immediately, and we're able to do with, you know, again, our partnership with the Parks Department, certainly, but with us, you know, helping with that as well. So, you know, our mission has not changed. It's to maintain and improve Carl Schurz Park. And we've been able to grow and do that because of all of our supporters and these continued partnerships. One of the ways that we have most been able to grow, I think, in the last 3 or 4 years is the addition of Brianna George to our staff. Brianna joined us about 3 years ago and is a full-time horticulturalist who's in the park every weekday and most, if not every, but a lot of weekends as well, and for throughout the entire year. She is joined by some seasonal gardeners when we're able to have them throughout the summer and late spring. But Brianna's there every day, and I would love to just turn it over to Brianna, who has a little bit of updates on some of the horticultural things and just things we've been doing actually in the park, as well as some of the environmental things we've been trying to move forward with.
Thank you, Patrick. So yeah, my name is Brianna George. I'm the horticulturist for Carl Schurz Park Conservancy. And like he said, I've been there for about 3 years, every single day. And I would like to thank Trisha for introducing herself and coming up to us and just talking with us about, you know, including us in this wonderful opportunity. So I'm just going to give you all a brief summary of what we do in the park. And I'll start with our stewardship and our best gardening practices. So we view Carl Schurz Park as a part of a wildlife corridor, and it's very important, you know, for the link and chain of habitat for the birds and insects living in and migrating through New York City. We feel we have a strong obligation to support these birds and insects, and we have to do so in several different ways, such as increasing native plantings to provide food that is familiar to them and provides the nutrients that they need to stay healthy. We've also been adopting new gardening practices and maintenance practices that take their habitats and life cycles into consideration. For instance, we don't do any fall cleanup, which provides critical habitat for overwintering species. So we leave all our leaf debris, twigs and branches for everyone to kind of get the opportunity to have a good winter over into the next year. It also, by doing so, it increases the organic matter in our gardens, creating a healthier environment. So, you know, our worms and larvae, which also provides food for our, you know, our birds and other insects. So far, more than 130 bird species have been identified in Carl Schurz Park. So as Tricia said, you know, that's why we have so many wonderful bird watchers coming in, checking out the park. So the great diversity of birds attests to the success of our gardening practices. This year, in the response to a rare Western tanager that got blown off course from the West Coast and was forced to overwinter in our park, we set out special bird feeders to increase our odds of surviving the winter. She can be seen enjoying a meal at the feeders on a daily basis, typically between 9:30 and 10 over by the playground. Which has just been so great. You can also see her photos on our website. And we've also had the pleasure of conducting a Pollinator Project a few years ago. And in order to get an idea of how healthy our park was in terms of species diversity, we partnered with the American Museum of Natural History to conduct a study to identify the bees in our park. Using fluorescent baked cups filled with soapy water, we captured specimens which were sent to the museum bee expert Sarah Kornbluth for identification. At the end of the months-long study, we found that we have had an abundance of native bees, including bumblebees, sweat bees, mason bees, carpenter bees, and other residing in our park. This again points to the success of our gardening practices. And it was very fun to see all the different types of pollinators we had coming through the park. We've also made a huge effort in erosion control. Our hilly topography requires us to take measures to preserve our precious topsoil. After heavy rains and sometimes storms, the loss of topsoil in certain areas of the park was significant and negatively impacting our gardens and lawn areas. It also caused hazardous walking conditions for park patrons, which kind of sucked. If you've ever been there after a storm and you've had to reroute, it's because of our erosion that was happening in the park. So to do that, we've been using large tree limbs. We've installed cribbing logs on slopes throughout the park. In our lawn areas, we've begun to utilize choir logs made of soft coconut fiber to help contain the soil. They're fully biodegradable and they're really awesome to work with. I really enjoyed it. And the improvement has been significant. We hear from park patrons all the time, like they definitely notice a difference in our erosion control and all the soil running off, which has been great. Not only is topsoil maintained, but as the logs break down over time, they help promote a healthy environment for organisms to live in the soil, which again attests to how well we're doing with our gardening practices. So if you ever see me in the park, please come up and say hi. We'd love to see and meet, people in our community. And if you have any questions, please come up. And we also love to talk. So just go ahead and make sure to come and say hi.
Yeah. Just feel free to check out our website. That's the only thing I would say is carlschurzparknyc.org. And on there at the bottom is my contact information, and anyone can email us or Brianna. We're happy to, give tours of the park and answer questions at any time to anybody. So, as Brianna said, we're around, so reach out.
Thank you guys so much for being here. I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to see if anybody from the public has any questions for our Carl Schurz Park Conservancy.
And for anyone, if it's your first time at one of our committee meetings, you're going to go to the raise hand button, which is found under the reactions button at the bottom of your screen. You may have to hit more to find reactions, but you'll want to open that up and you'll see the button that says raise hand. If you haven't updated your Zoom in a while, that button will still be found under participants, and it's also at the bottom of your screen. And if you're on the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand.
Thanks, Will. I see Patrick.
All right, Patrick.
Hey, nice to meet you, Brianna and Patrick from the park. It's a really beloved thing for me. It's like my first social interactions in the neighborhood started at the dog park there. So it has this very special place in my heart. And then the place of the nightly vigil there has just been really kind of something important, I think, for the neighborhood and for all of us. So one of the sort of benefits of COVID was this open streets program that was meant to slow down traffic. And I know Patrick is sort of briefed on what I'm talking about. Sort of between 83rd and 90th, there's barriers that go up and go down, sort of based on the whims of random neighbors or truck traffic that's going through. And it's meant to open it up for pedestrians. I have brought this up at the transportation committee and worked with a couple of people there. I've talked to the Colleen Chattergoon, who's our liaison for the DOT, and she's sort of informed of what's going on. And so what I want to do is sort of formalize the process and make sure that there's some sort of stewardship. I mentioned that I would be like last ditch willing to sort of spearhead putting together a group of neighbors that could watch these barriers. But one of the things that I know that the Conservancy can't be part of like the sort of planning process of what happens with this street. But I sent an email to Patrick, and I just also want to just kind of have transparency with the whole Parks Committee here that I've been working on this and had some conversations. And so one thing we'd like to do, if possible, is I know that the resources are taxed for the park. I'm 100% understanding of that. So just want to see safety happen. Just want to see those barriers stay up and really get the traffic there down to 5 miles per hour. The police move them on a whim, and traffic just zooms through while there's school kids walking around. I don't know if everybody's seen it or not, but it's supposed to be a pedestrian-friendly space, pedestrian-friendly roadway. So I wanted to know, if I could get a sense of the capacity of the Parks Conservancy to be able to move the barriers to and from. That was sort of like the minimum idea. The second thing that the sort of next level plan would be to maybe put planters in the roadway, but that would require a partnership with the Conservancy to maintain, I think, the horticulture or the plants in there and report any damages. So I know that's like a higher level of resource, and I'm very aware of this. So I want to meet everybody where they are, but I also want to sort of formalize that safety program and open up that space, because I think it's been really vital and really lovely as you approach the park.
Let's hear from Patrick at the Conservancy.
Thank you. Yeah, I did receive your email yesterday about that, and the conversations that you've been having, I know, with those different folks. And I will be taking your email on those different suggestions and thoughts and speaking to my executive committee, which meets next Wednesday, to review that, and then we can get back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Patrick.
Barry, can I ask? Yeah, unless anybody else has any questions, or the committee members. Oh, Valerie, go ahead, please.
Hi, I just had a question. Somebody who lives in the neighborhood mentioned to me that they had difficulty getting into the park when it was the last major snow, in that the entrance, that's really the ramp entrance that's closest to Gracie Mansion, citizens were not permitted to use that ramp and were told they had to use the stairs, which, if you have 2 young kids, is a little bit more difficult than going up a ramp. And I didn't know whether that was something that the Conservancy could look into.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we can So let me start by saying that snow removal is under the purview of the Parks Department, not the Conservancy. So that's really something that should be directly put to the Parks Department. I know Wes is here with us tonight, but we don't ever just go, not our problem. So that's not my answer. My answer is I can also, our teams like Brianna and volunteers do focus on key trafficked areas with trying to assist the Parks Department with some snow removal. So, we can just make sure that that area is noted as an area where right, Brianna, I think, we have a lot of areas. It's a huge undertaking, as you understand, especially with a major snowstorm like that. So we do kind of follow Parks instructions on how we can assist with snow removal. But from the Conservancy standpoint, we're happy to put on our list to double check that area along with some of the others that we know are key and critical.
Thank you.
Any other questions from committee members or Committee Board 8 members? I had a couple questions here. One was
Valerie.
just.
Oh, sorry. Valerie had her hand.
I think Valerie's hand is just going down. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay.
So one question I had was about well-tread areas. I noticed that last summer and last spring when obviously everybody was looking and relying on our parks as the only real form of going outside or recreational activity that we could safely do. I know that some of the areas of Carl Shores I noticed were very well tread, as you said, with overuse. I'm wondering if you're thinking about that for this upcoming spring and summer, if all areas of the park are going to be open. I'm wondering also about you mentioned before topsoil, if that's something that gets replaced every year, if this is something that, how are you managing the increase of traffic and the increase of use of our open spaces over there?
So we do work with our landscape team, which is a hired company that we pay to come in and mow and cut the lawns, to do overseeding as well as aeration of the lawns. And I believe, Brianna can correct me, that happens at least once a year. It may happen twice a year. Some of what I believe you're talking about, which is areas which are now starting to get bare and really need attention. Those are major projects for us. Those costs are not just to add topsoil. It's a major cost as well. So that we are looking at ideas for this year. We're just formulating kind of what our major projects for 2021 are going to be. And I can't say for sure that that's on the list. It is definitely on the list of major projects, along with many, many others. But we can take a look at that and see what we can do. What part of the issue with that also, and B can speak to this a little bit probably, is if we do a project like that, it then means that area is closed for a while. It needs to be closed in order for the grass to take root or for it to be effective and for the cost of that to be worthwhile. B, can you speak a little bit to seeding and what we do?
Yeah, so over the course of the past few years, we've definitely put in an effort to keep our lawns as green as possible. We do a lot of, I come in at early as possible, especially during the summer months, because I know a lot of the areas will, they get taken over, with blankets and children, they like to come and, claim their spot early in the day. So I have to come in pretty early between 6 and 7 to set up sprinklers and make sure, specific areas are water and everything. But, when we do a project area, it is going to have to be closed off, especially for lawns. And then the other thing we kind of have difficulty with is keeping the dogs running on the lawns, because unfortunately, we love dogs, absolutely love dogs. But, we have these specific areas that they're not allowed to be on. And so when we get a group of people that like to come on to those areas and let their dogs run off leash, it kind of kicks up and destroys lawn areas. So it's kind of, we have some struggles, but hopefully in this next year, I think we have discussed there are a few lawn areas that will be totally renovated. So that's something to look forward to. So
great. And can you just speak for a minute about any sort of is all Carl in-person programming suspended right now? Can you talk about what it's looking like for the rest of throughout the summer?
And I meant to address that at the beginning, so thank you for that question. Yeah, we have made the difficult decision to, as of right now, cancel all events for 2021. Part of that, it does include the art show. I know everyone was so disappointed that we weren't doing the art show last year. The logistics of planning that show are such that we would already be, and would have a month ago, already been in the throes of planning that event. And we also did consider doing some possible summer events like a movie or a concert, but taking into account the requirements for doing those for permitting, which have been quite extensively expanded to ensure COVID effective and safe areas, which does mean contact tracing and sanitizing stations and things like that. For us to undertake that is not going to be feasible. We're not going to be able to do that. So we have made the decision at this point, although we will continue to reconsider as we move throughout the year. But at this point, all of our events for 2021 are canceled.
Oh, I'm so terribly sorry to hear that. And I know that the community is really going to be sorry to hear that as well.
Yeah, and it's also the art show is also a major fundraiser for the Conservancy. So
yeah,
it affects us in a lot. We do most of our events are events that we put on at our cost for the community. That's why we do them. But some of the events, like the art show, are a major fundraiser for the Conservancy, and we feel that loss as well. So for that reason too.
I think that you guys did some sort of virtual art show last year, right? Are you planning on doing something similar this year?
Yeah.
Or?
Our website was live with all of the artists who had previously been as part of the show, and we did get a lot of interest in that, and people who reached out separately to artists to say, I'm sorry I couldn't see this year. Can I look at some of your new work online somewhere? And we will have that up again this year, and hope to even maybe expand it a little bit by the time we get to the fall for the show.
Okay, well, I won't belabor this anymore, but Barry and I had spoken, and the committee had spoken about this at the end of last year. It's our sincere hope this year to build a stronger relationship, but both between the community board and each conservancy, but also amongst the conservancies. I see Sahar here from before, and obviously we're trying to get through this so that some of us can go to the East River Esplanade event too. We'd like to build a stronger relationship amongst all of the groups, and particularly now when we realize that we are both relying on our parks so much and conservancies are hurting for their ability to raise funds and to maintain our parks. I just think that there's we have a real responsibility to do everything we can to support you guys. So thank you for coming tonight, but I hope that you would come back to us if there's anything that we can continue to do to work with you, if there's anything that we can do to help support the Conservancy and support your efforts moving forward. I would love to see our committee proactively work with you.
Absolutely. We're so grateful for having the opportunity tonight, and just speaking for myself and for all of our board members and all of our staff, we are also very happy to work with other conservancies. We've been doing this a long time here at Carl Schurz Park Conservancy. And so I do get calls from other conservancies, even Friends of East River. I've talked to, Jennifer Ratner and a couple other people there a few times with questions and advice and how can we do this and how can we do that? And I'm always available for that. So everyone is happy to I'm happy to reach out to me, and I'm happy to speak. And then Brianna's expertise is obviously much more my thumb I call light green. Brianna's is green. So she can help you really with the horticulture stuff and everything else we're doing, and certainly with the environmental stuff as well. So definitely anybody reach out to us and I'll get you in contact with the right person if it's not me.
Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Brianna. Thank you, Patrick. To those who joined us before the very beginning of the meeting, or since the beginning of the meeting, there's been a change in the agenda. The Friends of the Upper East Side Esplanade will not be with us this evening due to a scheduling conflict. We will invite them to join us at our March meeting. Moving the agenda, the next item on the agenda is the introduction of Captain William Gallagher. He's a commanding officer in the New York Police Department Central Park Precinct. Captain Gallagher, welcome.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you to Barry and Tricia for inviting me today. My name is Captain Bill Gallagher. I'm the commanding officer of the Central Park Precinct, and it's really great to be here and speak to everybody about public safety in Central Park, particularly to the Parks Committee for the Community Board. I'm a 21-year veteran of the New York City Police Department. I started in 2000, and my most recent assignment prior to Central Park Precinct was as the XO of our second in command of the 19th Precinct, which is the Upper East Side. So if I look familiar, you've probably seen me around the neighborhood my prior assignments. The Central Park Precinct is a fully functioning police station, no different than the 19th Precinct on the Upper East Side. We provide 24-hour day, 7 days a week, 365-day police coverage to Central Park and have all the same resources that your local precinct, say the 19th, would. We just cover Central Park. And as a bit of trivia, the 19th Precinct is your local precinct. The Central Park Precinct also has a number. It's sometimes called the 22nd Precinct. So we are the same as every other precinct, except we cover Central Park. And one of the things that have been echoed by Patrick before is that during the pandemic, parks have really been a safe haven for many people. We in Central Park actually very strongly believe that attendance in Central Park has gone up, I think, dramatically during the pandemic as opposed to the pre-pandemic times, because New Yorkers are seeking a refuge from their apartment. They need to get out. They need to explore nature. And it is kind of a saving grace. And one of the things that I'm very happy to report is even with increased attendance at Central Park, we saw a decline in crime in Central Park. So last year, we experienced a 16% decline in what we call index crimes in Central Park. So police departments across the country report 7 categories of crime to the federal government. Sometimes you may hear them as major crimes. Sometimes they may be referred to as index crimes. Some people refer to them as felony crimes. They are a good way to track safety in a particular neighborhood. And we're very proud to say that during the last calendar year, that category of crime, major crime, is down 16%. So in 2019, we had 69 major crimes. In 2020, we had 56. Just to put that in context, 56 major crimes during the year of 2020. To put that in a broader historical perspective, in 1993, Central Park recorded 475 major crimes. So 1993, 475 major crimes. 2020, pandemic year, 56 crimes. It's a tremendous, tremendous difference and makes the park safer for everyone. And we're very proud of that. And that comes from the hard work of the police officers assigned here, but it also comes through great partnerships with the Conservancy of Central Park and the people who use Central Park on a daily basis. The most common category of major crime that occurs in the park is an individual who's enjoying the park. Maybe they're sitting on a bench, they put maybe a purse or a bag, they get up and they walk away and they spend an extended period of time away from that bench. And when they come back, their property is gone. It's what we call internally an unattended larceny. That scenario that I explained just a few moments ago is the most common form of crime in Central Park. Again, we would always urge people, particularly when they're enjoying the park, to just make sure that they keep their valuables close and always on hand. Don't leave them unattended for periods of time. But that's the major category of crime that occurs. Now, that's not to say that during the year there wasn't serious crime, because there was, and I'd like to take you through a couple of those incidents. During the month of June, on what we call the Mall in Central Park, we had an individual fire a gun and shoot another person. That person survived, thankfully, but due to a very rapid mobilization of Central Park officers, transit officers, and 19th Precinct officers, we were able to apprehend that person probably about 45 minutes after the shooting occurred. We also, in September, had a stabbing, again, late at night at the Halleck Nature Preserve. That individual was also subsequently apprehended by police officers assigned to Central Park. So it's not to say that violent crime doesn't happen, because sadly it does, but it happens very rarely. And when it does, we've been able to very quickly apprehend them. A couple other incidents during the year that I think are of note. You may have seen in the media some stories about police officers responding and finding people who are deceased in the park. We've had 3 incidents during the calendar year that were really very, very sad incidents where individuals came to the park and decided to, end their lives. I think that we live in very difficult times, and these were very, very sad situations that occurred. I can't really say that statistically speaking, there were more this year than previous years, because there weren't, but there were several incidences that occurred in a very close time frame. Not close internally in the park and locations, but just a pretty kind of quick succession of those incidents, which I think are very, very sad and somewhat caused by the times that we live in, because we do live in tough times. But that is some of the major incidents that happen in the park. Our goal is that when you come to Central Park, you enjoy it, you get away from the very stressful times that we live in, and you enjoy what clearly is probably the most beautiful part of New York City. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments or concerns anybody would have about policing emergencies that may occur in the Central Park, or anything you feel you'd like to ask about the police.
I don't see any hands. Bill, while we're waiting,
Sure.
You mentioned to me a week or so ago an incident where your officers had to go to the west side to.
Yes. We had an incident a few weeks ago that I think is a really good one to talk to you. Thank you for reminding me about that. We had an individual, a mother of a child, and the child was separated. The child walked away from the mom and was separated, missing from the child's mother for about 2.5 hours. It's a 4-year-old. And, this is the type of situation that we handle that is not law enforcement related. So the child didn't, was not abducted. This was not a crime. This was basically every parent's worst nightmare. I know if you have a child and the child is stepped away for a few moments, I can't think of a more horrific moment in your life than that. And this child was missing for 2 hours. One of the things we did was we called in what's called a level 1 mobilization, which is a very, very rapid mobilization of police officers. Pull police officers from all over surrounding areas and really flooded the park. We brought in a dog, and we brought in 2 helicopters to search the park. Sometimes in something like this, the park is so big that one of the most effective ways of searching the park is to call in a police helicopter. And that really helps us cover a lot of ground quickly. I'm very, very happy to say that we were able to find the child unharmed and reunite the child with the parents. But I just think this incident kind of is just a reminder to a lot of people that police work is not just, arrests and summonses and enforcing the law, but it's also dealing with whatever emergency comes to your way. And just as I always tell people that a lot of police work has nothing to do with enforcing the law. And that's a good example of that.
Thank you, Captain Gallagher. Valerie, your question?
Thanks, Barry. First, I want to say I thought I recognized Captain Gallagher.
Thank you, Valerie. How you doing?
Good, very good. I just wanted to start out by saying a very hearty thank you from the East 72nd Street Neighborhood Association for all of our work together, and to know that you're in Central Park. And I think it's fantastic news that such an important space for all New Yorkers is a safe space, and we really appreciate and applaud all the work that the police department is doing there. It's not a major crime, but very important, as you know, to our organization, bicycle accidents. And I know that's not listed as one of the major crimes that the federal government looks at, but it's certainly something that, I know I have spent a lot of time on the loop in Central Park, and it has become very dangerous. And I was just wondering if those statistics are going a different way: pedestrian accidents, bicycle accidents.
But bicycle accidents are actually flat. If you give me a few minutes, I could actually pull them up. They're flat, they're even, they're not up and they're not down. But, you know, obviously the bicycle and the amount of bicycles are really in the park a reflection of the weather. As the weather gets warmer, more people are on a bike. When it's cold, less people. So going forward, one of our plans is, if you were to look at, is really to kind of just look at the data and say there are certain parts of the park where you'll just get more bicycle accidents than others. And during those peak times, we're going to put a police officer and an auxiliary police officer there to make sure that traffic flows appropriately. You know, I don't necessarily subscribe to writing a lot of summonses because these are very difficult times for people, as we all know. And I want to kind of use enforcement as kind of the last resort, particularly with bicycles. But, you know, statistics and you know, personal observation knows that the presence of a police officer slows everybody down. You know, everybody slows down. So that would be my plan as the weather warms up regarding that. But I would definitely like to send you the data.
Okay,
If I could
great.
just get you a way to contact you afterwards.
Yeah, sure.
I would definitely, I would love to send you the data.
Okay, thanks so much.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Again, thank you for all you guys do.
Bill, why don't you send the data to Will Brightbill, and
Will
he can forward it to Valerie or anyone else who wants that information.
Sure, I will.
Great, thank you so much. I see Felice Farber has a question.
Thanks for all your hard work. I
Thank you, please.
just had a quick question.
Sure.
I have noticed, although I haven't been in the park since it started snowing, but I have noticed around the loop, especially in nicer weather, are the electric motorcycles.
Yeah.
Like the Revel type bikes. Are those allowed on the, I mean, I guess there's on the roadway, but it seems like they're on the bike loop. Is that permitted?
Yeah, there's, you know, there's a little bit of a debate right now as to whether those bicycles are permitted or not. I certainly don't think they should be, to be honest with you. I have some concerns with them inside a park. You know, there may be a need for them in delivery of food or delivery, but like a park is a park. The one thing I can tell you is that when people are operating them inside Central Park, and they're operating them faster than they're supposed to go. So our kind of enforcement in that sense would be a speeding summons as opposed to just a summons for having them. So that would be how I would approach that, how we have approached that. We do also take them as well when they're not parked properly, and we do seize them. I can tell you also that I would urge anyone, probably anyone, not to get on them. I think they're very dangerous. I think people ride them recklessly. The most serious traffic collision that occurred this year inside Central Park was on the transverse, where an individual was riding a Revel scooter way too fast on a transverse, lost control, and smashed into the wall, almost killing themselves. Just by sheer coincidence, I happened to be the first person to respond to that scene. I was out in the park, and I picked up the 911 call. It was a horrible, horrible scene. The person survived, thank God, but the person's survival, in my opinion, and I've been a cop for 21 years, to me was nothing short of a miracle, to be honest with you. So the Revel scooters are a big deal. They are a problem. If they're legal, they still have to be driven in a safe, non-reckless manner. And I can tell you another thing that happened about a week ago. About a week ago, we actually arrested an individual who was driving one of those while intoxicated inside the park. So all the rules of the road still exists, and we still enforce them. But yeah, it's a great question as to whether they're legal inside the park or not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Felice. I see no more hands, so we're going to move the agenda. Bill, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you all so much. Please be safe and please have me back next time, Barry. I'd love to come back in a couple months.
We will certainly, it was a pleasure to have you, Bill.
Thank you, everybody.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a report from the New York City Parks Department.
Barry, no, I'm sorry, Barry. We need to talk about the Esplanade. Just a couple. Remember the letter?
Yeah, I was going to put that under new business, but that's all right. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. So we are going to hear from Friends of the East River Esplanade next month, but just a couple updates. You might have seen in the news that the mayor has allocated $284 million for repairs going to the Esplanade. This is by far the largest investment that we've seen thus far. I wish I could tell you that all of the money was going to the east side, but it's to District 8, but it's not. A large part of it's going to East Harlem, which also has a lot of problems with the repairs of their waterfront. $84 million is going to go to the section between 90th and 96th Street, which is major for us, and certainly it's not a done deal, but it's very promising to see this type of investment put into being proposed in the budget. We will hear more about this. I spoke with CB11. This was again one of our long-term goals, is to partner with CB11 and have a joint meeting. They are interested and want to proceed with that, and the idea is to have the Parks Department come and do a presentation on exactly where that money is going and how it's going to be used and timeframes and all that other stuff. But in the meantime, I think we just need to kind of agree. The Friends of the East River Esplanade and Civitas and several other, I think CB11 and maybe a couple other groups have all joined together on a letter thanking the administration for proposing this money, and they would like to know if CB8 would like to also add our name to that. So I think that we need to have some sort of agreement on this. Barbara has her hand raised, and then Judy.
Wholeheartedly, yes. I think unlike other parks, we can't consider this CB11 or CB8. This is one Esplanade. I work that way, and I don't need my passport to say that I've crossed over from CB8 to CB11. This is one Esplanade. We should be working together. I'm thrilled that you were able to do what I wasn't able to do when I was co-chair, and I thank you for it. And wholeheartedly, we should be supporting this and working together. So thank you. Thank the mayor. Thank everybody there is to thank.
Yeah, thanks. Judy?
Will you unmute? There you go.
Okay. I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we write a letter. Is that what they want, Trish? A
letter has already been written. They want to know if we want to sign our names to it.
And I would like to put a motion on the floor that the Community Board 8 sign on to the already proposed letter to thank the mayor or whatever. Is there a second?
I see Barbara's hand as a second.
Let's assume all are in favor. If you're not in favor, raise your hand and we'll call you. We'll note that. Anyone opposed to the resolution?
I just see Irma's hand.
Irma, unmute.
That's no, I'm for the letter.
Great.
Thank you.
Will these are the names of the board members that I have for the minutes? Chicago, Larry, Trish, Felice, Barbara, Irma, Brian Correa, Craig, Rita Popper, Valerie. Did I miss any board members?
I think we got them.
Yeah.
Good. Well done. Thank you, Judy.
Okay, so we're going to have a more thorough discussion on this. But I do, Wes, when you come to your section, I do have a couple questions for you regarding Esplanade stuff that I promised that I would ask on behalf of a couple community members.
Okay, Wes, it's all yours.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, everyone. And good evening. I'm Wesley Hamlin. I'm park manager for the district Community Board 8. First of all, I'd like to thank, it's great to see everybody's faces and appreciate everybody coming out. And I'd really like to give a special thanks to Captain Gallagher and as well as to the Carl Schurz Conservancy which I also say we work with them very closely, and we're very thankful for them. These groups can really show you the difference of how a park can really shine and be such a help to the community. Without them, some of the things that happen in Carl Schurz would not be possible. So again, we thank them constantly for their efforts, and we ask them to be, continue with their efforts, and we thank them for all that they've done. Few brief reports, updates on some of our capital projects, and 24 Sycamore is still in progress. It's been moving along very well. We have extended their completion date to be August. We estimated date of completion is now August, although the contractor is still trying to complete it in late spring. Just due to COVID reasons and unforeseen issues, that time has been extended. But they are on progress. There's no current delays, but their completion date we have extended due to COVID reasons. St. Catherine's is in the procurement, as well as Honey Locust and John Jay. So those are out to bid and waiting to hear back to see what prices we can get for those jobs. And the Greenway project, which is EDC, is on schedule and moving forward, as many people have noticed along the FDR. So we're very pleased with that. Our special events, we're as Patrick and them noticed, have been very challenging. We're taking them, basically looking at them month to month for any special events. And I say that there's some events that are not considered special events, like if it's First Amendment or religious issues are a little bit different, but anything that would be considered a special event, such as movies, we're taking them basically month by month, and there are very lengthy COVID protocols involved in what needs to be done in order to accomplish that. So that's what Patrick was alluding to earlier, and we certainly understand if they're not going to have a lot of events this year. I understand it completely, but there's abundance of caution for everyone due to the COVID. But we are taking our permits and looking at them month to month. So again, as I've reported on regularly, most of our events have been very small events, such as birthday parties, things that's not going to draw in a large crowd. That's our biggest concern. If you have any type of event that could draw in people, that we have appropriate safety measures in place. And most of this is through guidance through the city. So those rules and regulations are set forth by the city, and we're forced to ensure that those are carried out. With that being said, snow has been the big topic lately, I'm sure. And I don't know if you can tell it, but I'm completely exhausted. We've been up every day, shoveling snow, shoveling salt, planning. And as soon as you think you're making some headway, here comes another little clipper your way, and we start all over again. So one of the things I can say, our complaints have actually been pretty low. We've had some complaints, obviously, for the snow, but the complaints have been less. And I can honestly say that our staff and everybody we've been working with, the Conservancy, has really, with this, that was 2 foot of snow that we haven't seen in many years. So everybody's really put a lot of effort and a lot of manpower or physical effort into cleaning the snow removal. I appreciate everyone's patience. We do know we have a lot more to go. We do have a plan on how we attack snow removal, and I'd be happy to answer some of those. But I really, first of all, would like to thank everyone who's been involved, my staff, the Conservancy, volunteers, and the patience of everyone in the community of understanding that we are constantly working on it, and we do know there's more to go. But there is a process that we go through to do it. And we've had some setbacks. Every weather situation can be a little bit different and unique. And we adjust to that as well as dealing with COVID is at the same time. So if there's any questions with that, I'd be happy to take any, answer any questions. And I know, Tricia, you had some questions about the Esplanade, and also would like to wish your son a speedy recovery.
Thank you. You guys are very kind. And thanks, Wes. I'm going to let the committee members and members of the public go first. Anybody from the public have any questions for Wes? If not, we'll go to Rita and then Judy.
Actually, I see Lynn Cashman has her
Oh,
hand
I'm sorry,
up.
Lynn. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you, Wes. I was over by Coleshire's Park today walking, and I had been a little nervous, that there might be a lot of ice or whatever. But anyway, it was pretty clear, and there were lots of people out there enjoying themselves. So I appreciate what you and your crew are doing.
Well, thank you very much. And I also thank the Conservancy, because they've also been pitching in and helping and doing a lot of work, and our staff as well. So thank you. And there is some icy patches out there. Please be careful. But we try to address the areas where we have the highest volume of pedestrian walkways, which is our perimeters and our ferry boats and our steps. And then we'll try to open up more of the interior pathways of the park. So we do ask that everybody be patient with us and to be careful. And obviously, if you see snow or salt, icy patches or snow patches, to be very careful in those areas. And as well, we know too, in a lot of our parks, a lot of people are utilizing the snow and having fun, which is part of enjoying the park, is going out there and having your sledding and snowball fights and everything else as well. Which can sometimes counteract our cleaning efforts, but for the most part, everyone's been working really well with us. So I thank you for noting that, and I also thank everyone that's been helping us. Thank you.
Rita.
I just wanted to thank you and your staff. They've done a great job at Rupert Park, and because of the sloping area and even where the stairs are, that all 4 quadrants of that park were used by everybody sledding in anything that goes. It was really wonderful. But I will tell you that around 8 o'clock in the morning, people come to walk their dog, and the first thing they do is let them off the leash. And they too have enjoyed all 4 quadrants of the park. Your people put up a fence in the lower northeast part of the park. And the fence doesn't go completely across. So the dogs go around on both sides. I just wanted to know why that fence was there.
Sure, it's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. We call that a nuisance fence. And it is designed to try to make people go around. We try to discourage anyone from going into those areas. We were trying to work with the volunteer groups. We have some Sahar here and some volunteers that work very hard in trying to make improvements in that park. We try to put up signs encouraging, asking people to stay out of that area. Although some people don't read, and some people climb over fences or damage fences, or if it's already open and I could go in there. So one of the things that we tried to do is we do this in similar ways to try to break paths or to make it so easy for people to be in there. And that's what we did, was the fence. So it's not designed to try to separate, to section off the area. It's actually designed to where, it separates people or animals from running around in the area.
The dogs don't mind it at all.
We understand that, and we hope that the pet officers can deal with the owners. The dogs are a product of the owners. So the thought is that somebody's climbing over a fence, and then their dog is on the other side of the fence and they're on this side. But that's basically the thought with that fence. How effective it is, I don't know, but that's what it is called. It's called a nuisance fence, and it's designed to try to break it up where it's not easily to run straight or go right after it. And it's just another attempt to try to keep people out of the area.
Because it's not anchored at either end, so it's open at both ends, so they just go around it. Thank you. Good job, though. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I think I had Judy next, and then we'll go to Mubin.
Wes, I just wanted to ask you said August for completion of 24 Sycamores Park. You didn't say what year.
Thank you, Judy. Yes, of this year, so 2021, and we're hoping that they complete that earlier. The project is on pace. It's just that you know, with COVID and we've had incidences and other projects of things that could happen that's beyond their control. And just out of abundance of caution, that deadline has been extended to August. So, but they're not behind on anything at this point in time. They are moving forward and they are on schedule. It's just the schedule has been adjusted just so that they're not punished for something that's beyond their control.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mubin?
Hi, Tricia. Hi, Wes. Hi, hello, everyone at CB8. I'm sorry I'm joining the meeting late. I had a meeting conflict prior, but so if I'm repeating myself, please let me know and we can move on. But Wes, I came in when Rita was talking about the dog run issue at Rupert Park. I had a question. Last time we requested that, I remember prior to our event in August and then again in October that maybe we send a week before the people to give tickets to the people because people were using that fenced area as a dog run. And in fact, Tricia was with us volunteering and was kind enough to go and request them to stop doing that. And they did. But I'm wondering if we've tried to at least go periodically and give tickets, because I think unless it hurts their bottom line, they may not, you know, clearly these are people that are choosing not to adhere to rules. So maybe they need to, I mean, I hate to do that kind of penalty, but I don't know what else we can do because this has been a chronic problem, you know, certainly that we've seen for the last 5 years and clearly many of you for a whole lot longer.
Yes, well, thank you. We do notify our PEP enforcement patrols and they do patrols the area regularly. In many cases, they do our PEP enforcement does try to educate the people first. But there has been many tickets written in that area, and we often tell them exactly when we have events coming up, and they do. I have witnessed them myself, patrolling the areas, educating people, as we all have, and I have also seen where they have written tickets as well.
And what is the ticket for breaking that rule? What is the cost of it? Like, what's the penalty?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know it is significant.
Okay.
And one thing I would like for everyone to know is that Parks does not receive the money for any of fines that are written by our enforcement. It goes to what's called the city's general fund.
I see.
But regardless, I agree with you when rules are blatantly broken. In some cases, people are not aware of it. Some people do think it's a dog run and mention it's a dog run, but it's not a dog run. We do try our best to put up signs and they get removed. So we do try to educate. We're not running out trying to increase our funding or try to write additional tickets. And we don't want to give any of the public that impression either. And that's why I mentioned that we don't, the Parks Department doesn't receive the funding from the tickets. The city does in general, but exactly what it is. It goes to a general fund. And then the city council and the mayor would determine where that funding goes. So We do.
I guess I would just
in trying to make improvements on that is in an effort to prevent people from using that area as a dog run. Is signage, enforcement, education, and nuisance fencing, you name it. I don't know what else we could really try other than just trying to upkeep that and to make improvements through volunteer projects like yourself that you guys have done. Thank you.
Okay, I won't belabor the point any further. I do think we need to find some solution because we've been talking about it for 6 years to no avail. But maybe one thing that you can propose, Wes, is more direct signage that's just pertaining to dogs that can be placed in the park inside, not on the outside peripheral fence, because nobody looks at those rules. I know we have that big board that has all the rules. And frankly, I focused on it myself because I got involved with the park. So I think maybe if you can have, no dogs allowed by the plant beds and the open fields, they need something more direct like that with a sign there and a fine and a price for a fine. It's just something to be considered. I know this is a very big initiative for you guys. If you do it, you have to do it for all the parks. But it's something worth thinking about because it isn't going away. And people in the other boroughs have complained about the same thing with their parks.
Yes, we've installed signs and we'll continue to install signs. They do get vandalized and removed. And we have had some budget reduction in our signs, but we will replace them, and we do install signs specifically saying stay out of the area, no pets allowed off a leash, etc. Which is why I also, for those people who do not look at the signs, that's what our pet tries to do. When I say we educate them, they'll go out there and inform people that pets are not allowed off leash or into that area.
Okay. Rita.
Bean is absolutely right. I will tell you, over the years, because I overlook the park, I would take pictures on 14 floors up. You'll get to see little specks. The dog owners have become emboldened, if you will. And instead of being in one area, they're in all 4 areas. And Mubin and her group work so hard. And it just means that the park is really not for everyone to use. The park is really for dog owners and for if you have a child 2 years old. That's it. So anything that you could do to help would be really appreciated. And I hope Teddy feels better.
Thank you. Sahar, you'll have the last word on this one. I know you're going to talk about the same thing, so go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat what has been said. I just wanted to ask that can we all get together? I hope he feels better soon. Can we all please, as we have spoken multiple times in the past, can all of us sit together, have a meeting for Rupert Park, and decide on all these different factors? I do understand about the dog owners, they need a space, but then again, when the dogs come in, they go all over. Whatever we have worked at, it all gets spoiled. And then others have trouble, having their kids there to play. So can we all get together and have a meeting where we can decide on the infrastructure of the park? I think that might resolve this issue for once and for all.
You know that we've certainly committed to this in the past. I'm going to tell you the truth that our March meeting is going to be on a different day than it normally is, and because we're going to be focusing hopefully on the Esplanade on that meeting, I would be more than happy to, but realistically, I'd say probably April, if that's okay. But
April is fine.
I do.
But let's just get many, the community board, you and Barry and all the board members, and also the council member. Let's get everybody on, obviously from our New York City parks, everyone. And I think we can be there as well, and others too, so that we can get everyone on the table those who would be contributing towards getting this park up and running in the right manner, and those who would be actually doing the work. So let's just, I think it's very important for all of us to be, sitting down and discussing this so that we can get this done, and all the other issues related to Rupert Park. And we would really appreciate, your and Barry's leadership on this.
All right, we will put our heads together and come up with a date and time when the only item on the agenda will be the issues that you are raising now.
Please, let's have one. Thank you. And we really appreciate everyone's effort and wills, and the New York City Parks administration as well. We really, really appreciate it, because I think we all are trying. Everybody is, but I think we need to get together and talk about this and get the solution to this problem. And it would be lovely.
Got it. Thank you. Trish, you want to wrap it up?
Yes, I'm going to, Barry, Wes, I'm going to go very, very quickly on this. Two things. One is that the cul-de-sac at the end of 72nd Street, which I know is not technically park space, but the benches there are in terrible shape. And I feel like I remember talking to you in the past, or somebody telling me from the Parks Department that you guys do have extra benches, or there's this is like something that you guys keep in stock somewhere. But I'm wondering if there's any way that you guys can take a look at the benches at the end of the cul-de-sac at the end of 72nd Street. That's the first one. I'm just going to go through this really quickly. The second one is that we've heard from some neighbors that there's some concerns, wellness concerns with some of our homeless New Yorkers who are on the Esplanade, particularly during these cold months. And so I'm wondering if you could just tell us just the frequency that if homeless outreach generally goes out to the Esplanade this time of year, if it needs to be something where I need to send you exact locations or whereabouts. But there's just some wellness concerns. It's very cold out. The Esplanade in particular is very cold. I know that homelessness is not a crime, but I want to see if there's when and what frequency you guys send anybody out there too.
Yeah, great questions. I can't really address benches for non-parks property at this point in time. I mean, we just don't have the resources to go out and donate benches to property that's not Parks Department. And I don't know if we're allowed to, but I hear you. We're familiar with that situation at the cul-de-sac. And then secondly, going into, you bring a couple of great issues up with homelessness on the Esplanade. And what I encourage everyone to do is, the Homeless Services is not a part of the Parks Department. It is another city agency. But what anybody could do is 311. And when there is what's called code blue, meaning that the temperatures are very freezing, that it will trigger Homeless Services to check out the location of the homeless person much quicker. And it opens up a lot of resources to the city agency under the code blue, meaning that basically anybody that wants shelter can be given shelter. When the temperature is freezing, there's no qualifying or any particular reasons. If anybody needs shelter, it will be given. So with that being said, it is increased in the winter. Homeless Services, I can tell you, from my experiences with them, I can't speak directly for them, but I can tell you that we work closely with them. And I would encourage anyone in the community or anyone out there to use the 311 app for Homeless Services. It's really good. It usually can pinpoint your location, and you can give a description of what the individual is. And if it is temperatures below freezing, it will get the attention of Homeless Services there even quicker. As well as if you notice, it's always helpful as well if you notice any minors or any, specifically homeless families. So that will engage them quicker if that is the case. We do know through the 311 system that there are some issues along the Esplanade as far as reporting. And in those cases, it might be better to make a phone call. And I'll give you an example specifically around Haswell Green. We've had some 311 issues picking up pinpointing your location. In many cases, if you were to try to do for whatever it is on 311, including homeless, it will pick you up on York Avenue rather than being on the Esplanade. So those are some problems, but in other locations of the Esplanade, especially as you go up further north, we have less of that problem where the GPS can pick up the signal from your phone and locate you. And so that's a really handy tool. You can call me, but I really prefer you to call directly to 311, whether it be using the app or calling it, because if you call me, that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to, relay it to 311. So you're really going to help the individual quicker. I may be off. I may not get the message till later. So it's really going to be quicker if you call 311 or use the 311 app directly for that individual. And it can actually pick up your location. So it's even really great if you're on site to use that. We encourage the public to do that. And we also encourage our staff and myself. I do that when I'm there. So when we see these conditions, so that engages the homeless services to go out there and check on the individual and to see if they need care or if they want shelter. And that's the best advice I can give for that.
Can I just have one more question on this, and we'll respectfully counter to your comments about 72nd Street at the end. I understand that the property is DOT. I understand that piece, but the furniture, is that also DOT? Because I feel like I heard somewhere, maybe I'm just misremembering this, but I felt like the furniture is Parks furniture. Like DOT doesn't have those benches in its kind of stock. So wouldn't it be Parks furniture? And couldn't it be Parks furniture while it be still being DOT property?
No, it doesn't really work like that as far as that I know. I mean, I could be wrong, but generally speaking, we maintain our property. That would be much like saying, DOT has to do all the paving for anywhere, city property. There are some things that they do like lights. I would say DOT does do it. So, I'm not, definitely saying that's not the case, but as far as I know, I mean, we don't really have a way of being able to, and when there's furniture, when you say Parks furniture, I mean, some of the stuff that Parks utilizes and uses is available to many different places. So it's just because it's a Parks type bench doesn't necessarily mean that Parks would have to be responsible for it. And it's not to say that we couldn't be done. It's just, we don't have the resources to go out and start, repairing property that's not Parks Department. We really try to focus on our property, to be honest with you. And we have those challenges as well. So some of the concerns would be, are we fixing Parks? We're fixing benches on property that's not Parks. What about then, somebody complains about park benches in the parks that need repair. And I'm sure even Carl Schurz Conservancy can tell you about a lot of benches that I can tell you they've repaired and replaced a lot. And there's a lot more that need replacing in some of our parks. So for us to divert the resources to property that's not even maintained by Parks could cause some issues that it would have to definitely come at a level higher than me, to have that happen. So I wouldn't be able to comment on repairing property on non-Parks property.
Thank you, Wes. Tricia, I have a very specific idea about that. I'll discuss with you offline. I'd like to move the agenda now under old business. Any old business? Seeing no hands, is there any new business? I see hands. Stephen Martin and then Bill Angelus. Please keep your comments brief and cogent. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Trish. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Stephen Martin, and I represent a new nonprofit on Roosevelt Island called Friends of the Ruin. And our goal is to see the landmark smallpox hospital stabilized and become a memorial park to really kind of memorialize the efforts at the front lines. We see this as a wonderful place to memorialize public health. This was our country's very first hospital dedicated to smallpox pandemic of the 1850s, and then served a wonderful life of 70 years as a nursing school, training New York's front lines. It's in the shadow of the United Nations, and we see kind of a beautiful ruined garden as a wonderful addition to the New York City, New York State park system. So I just wanted to introduce this to Barry, to Trish, to all of you. This is very much a kind of an important park feature, and we look forward to working with you. So you can find out more at theruin.org. And I just wanted to inform the committee today of our very early nascent efforts.
Yeah, Mr. Martin, Stephen, I'm so sorry you're hearing my screaming child in the background, but I'm gonna just tell you that we talked about this a little bit, and just because we were trying to figure out what committee made the most sense here. And I think that it just ultimately felt like we wanted to continue to see what was happening with this and try to be informed along the way before we figured out if it was landmarks or if it was Roosevelt Island or if it was parks or where it lands. But I just want to tell you personally, I think that this is a super exciting project. And if you would, I would love to, I think you have my email address. I would love to personally go and listen if you're having meetings on this or other places. I think it's a very cool project. I don't know if it's going to ultimately land in parks or not, but I think it's super cool, and
thank you.
I'm totally on board.
Thank you.
I totally agree with Trish's remarks. We had a discussion about this earlier.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, Stephen. We have a member of the public and then a member of the board. Member of the public, Bill Angeles.
I'm Barry. I'm sorry. I'm going to unmute. I'm going to mute myself just because of my background noise.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Bill Angelos. I'm the board member of 301 East 66th Street. I'd like to bring up the issue regarding St. Catherine Park. Our next door neighbor, the Blood Center, along with the real estate developer Longfellow, is proposing to build a tower of 334 feet that will cast a shadow on St. Catherine Park. St. Catherine, and also the Municipal Art Society called the attention to the shadow of the proposed tower that will impose on St. Catherine Park. I'd like to know what the board's position on this, when the proposed tower may impose irreparable damage to the park, to such a priceless public asset.
Is that it, sir?
Yeah, I'd like to know what the board position on this.
The board, very quickly, we'll end this discussion now. The board's position will be taken after we heard the ULIP proposal from the applicant at full board under the land use committee, where the full board will take a position on the application that's presented to the city, not what you may have seen before, because until it is certified, it doesn't exist as far as community board 8 is concerned. That's my personal opinion. And excuse me, sir, and that's where we're leaving it. Have a good evening. Thank you very much. Valerie?
Hi, I just wanted to go back, Barry and Trish. I had sent you an email that I had received from somebody about lighting on the Esplanade. And so I know this isn't new business, but I don't know if this was a question for Wesley or how that should be handled. So
I'm so sorry, Valerie. I completely forgot about this issue. Wes, there is, Valerie, please remind me if I'm misstating this, but there's a slew of lights out on the Esplanade. Is that correct? And
let me interrupt you. I sent the list of locations that Valerie sent to me to Colleen Shadagoon, of the DOT. She replied back that she's sending out the people to look at it. The lighting in the city is taken care of by the Department of Transportation. The lighting on the Esplanade is the responsibility of DOT. I'll follow up with Colleen tomorrow, but in the recent past, when I've asked her to take a look at lighting at Tramway Park, the DOT responded fairly promptly and remedied the problem of the lights being out. So I will follow up tomorrow unless Wes has something other to add. Wes.
Not really more. You're exactly right. There are a few places along the Esplanade that maybe go back and forth between DOT and Parks Department, but for the most part, DOT is responsible for parks lighting, as I alluded to earlier. And Colleen Chatterton is the great contact person with DOT. And basically, when people report light issues to me, such as at Rupert and in other places along the Esplanade, basically that's exactly what we do is we report it to DOT and create a service request, and they usually have about 30 days to try to respond to those requests.
Well, thank you all. Thanks, Barry. Appreciate that.
Sure. Wes, I'll send you the list that Valerie sent me so that everyone's on board on this. So that no one's, let me put it away, so no one's in the dark on this. Sorry. There you go. Tricia, anything else? Oh, wait, I see no other hands. Yes, Tricia.
One second, Barry, just 1 second, because we're already past time, so I might as well do. So one more thing, Wes. So on the 81st Street ramp for the Esplanade, the entire handrail has fallen off. I took a picture of this and I tried to send it to you, and for some reason my phone was so cold that it was having a trouble sending it to you. So can you please look at this? It's not only is there no handrail, but it's sharp shards of metal that are out on the handrail on the ramp there. So can you please take a look at that? Or
yes,
are you aware of this?
I've seen the handrail. We've had problems with that as well, and that's another issue. We have. I'm trying to say it's supposed to be under warranty from DOT, who did the bridge, but we have repaired it before, and we don't know if there's vandalism or what's going on with it, but we definitely look at it. We have noticed it and we have repaired it as well, and we will continue to do so. So it's just recently most of our staff have been tied up doing snow removal and et cetera, et cetera. But thank you for bringing it to my attention, and feel free to let me know about it anytime, and I'll report it to our blacksmith and try to get some repairs made on.
Okay, thank you. And I see Mr. Angelos, do you have something else to say?
Just unmute yourself.
Just to follow up, I'd like to put in the agenda regarding the St. Catherine Park. Is it possible putting it on the agenda?
St. Catherine's Park?
Yes.
So I can certainly talk to Barry about it, and we can see, we generally get updates on St. Catherine's Park. Just to add to this topic, the community board has taken it up in our full board. Barry's alluding to the ULERT process, which will take place, and we will be bringing this up and passing and finish another resolution on this matter. You can take a look at our past resolutions on this with regards to the park, and I know that it's made reference to it. And then in terms of future issues, yes, absolutely, I will speak to Barry and we'll figure out when we can have this on the agenda.
All right, thank you.
Yep, and any sort of, I mean, this goes for everything, but any sort of issues anybody has in our parks, we encourage everybody to send them over to Will Brightbill, our district manager. We hear all of the issues, and if we can get them addressed, if it's an immediate danger issue or an immediate concern, we try to work with Wes outside of our meetings. If there's something that needs to be addressed or should be discussed in our full committee meetings, we try to schedule that out. You've seen tonight we have committee meetings that ultimately we already know what's coming up in March. We're already talking about April, so it takes some time, but we do try to address everything that comes to us.
Yes, but I would like to have the input on the public, onto the public as well for our next agenda.
Sure, all the time. We always have the public. Okay.
Will, I see you're unmuted. Well, seeing no other questions, answers, or new business, old business, I move to adjourn. Is there a second? Barbara, Valerie, Rita, unanimous. Have a great evening, everyone. Stay well and stay safe. Thank you.